You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I remember being 7 years old, and my mom worked at Kmart. And my dad took myself and my brother down there so we could have lunch at the K cafeteria. My brother being a little older than me. And then we were given our allowance that we could then go spend on something if we wanted to. And I remember, I think I had $5, which was, 1970, that was huge. And I couldn't figure out what I wanted. I got to look around a little bit, and my brother said, I saw something that might interest you. I said, all right. So he took me to an end cap. And on this end cap was this collection of action figures about yay big. They all had black borders on the cards with a picture, and it said Star Wars, and I had no idea what Star Wars was. Hadn't seen the movie. Hadn't even heard about the movie. But the figures were out. And I looked at these figures and I thought, there's a lot of really neat looking ones. And I kind of zoned through, and there was a female figure, and at 7, you don't want a female figure. And there's a little pudgy looking thing with odd legs, and then there's a gold looking figure. And I kept looking and looking at them. And there were 2 that was taller than all the others. One was a guy in all black with a plastic black cape and a little red thing coming out of his hand. The other would look like some kind of bear creature with a little gun belt around his chest. And I went, you know what? I'm going to buy those. Those are the 2 I bought. And I went home and became obsessed with those figures, collecting all of them. Having a inside connection at Kmart allowed my mom to go through the boxes when they first arrived to get all the figures I wanted. That was my first experience with Star Wars. I would later go see the movie. I don't think I saw it when it was first out. I think I saw it. They re-released it a couple months later. They put it back in theaters. And I'm pretty sure that's when I saw it. That was a long time ago now. But today is May the 4th, so we are going to be talking Star Wars mostly. So stick around. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is Thursday, May 4th. Now today we're going to be talking Star Wars for most of the day. I got some other news we're going to cover, but then we will focus on the state of Star Wars, where it's been, where it's going, and then we will do some Star Wars collectibles. Well, I picked some key issues from the initial 107 issue run from when Marvel did it, from the 70s through 86. So we'll be hitting that up pretty quick. But I do want to get to the news. And there are, like I said, there are some pretty interesting things. First up is a teaser image we got from Loki. Loki season 2. And let's go ahead and just leave this up, JD. The interesting thing here is this is a promotional image from Amazon France. And you can tell we've got on the far right Wunmi Musaku as Hunter B-15, and she looks pretty much similar to what she wore in the first season. And then we've got Eugene Cordero's Casey, who also looks pretty much like he did. We got Tom Hiddleston's Loki. All of them look pretty much like they did in season one. Then next to Loki, on the left of Loki, or his right, our left, is a character who we don't know who he is yet, but he's played by Ke Huy Quan, who just won a Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I noticed that he's wearing a safari jacket, which immediately made, and maybe it's just because of the colors on here, but it made me think of Wonder Man from the comics. Because, Wonder Man wears a safari jacket. It's probably his most recognizable costume, and probably his best costume, because he's had some pretty bad costumes. But so I thought that was kind of interesting. But then we get over to the far left, and that is Owen Wilson's Mobius in what can only be described as a spacesuit. And there's a couple other images, I didn't pull them, that actually has him wearing the helmet. So I don't know about you, but I'm definitely curious why Mobius is in a spacesuit and why the TVA even has one. Because they deal with time. They usually don't deal with space that much. So I guess they do jump around, but yep, the spacesuit kind of threw me off. All right, let's move on to our next story. And that is, let me pull my notes back up. There's been some rumored changes. Well, not really rumored changes, but rumored attitude change at Marvel, since there's been a lot of negative feedback on some of the stories in Phase 4. Well, according to Jeff Snyder from the Above the Line, he was on a podcast the other day, and he was pointing out that Marvel seems to be bringing in quite a few new writers who are all coming off of acclaimed projects, like Nick Pizzolatto, the creator of True Detective, who's now on Blade. So he says, if you've been paying attention in the last few weeks or months, you would notice that Marvel has been spending a lot of money on writers. Just today, we saw the new thing about Nick Pizzolatto. They brought in to write Blade, just like Josh Friedman, the expensive Sarah Chronicles writer. Hey, he's a big name in town. They got him for Fantastic Four. Lee Sung-jin of Beef. They've got him for the Thunderbolts. So they're going out and they're paying people. And he went on to say, so pay attention, guys. They're not going out to the newbie writers anymore. They're going out to some heavy hitter for writers. That's the Marvel secret that no one has talked about yet. They are now paying for writers. Now, I don't think they were not paying writers, but they do appear to be going out and trying to get some more established writers and changing things up, which brings the question of some of these other upcoming projects, like Jeff Loveness, who's working on Kang Dynasty. His script on Quantumania has been kind of panned. So will they be keeping him? Will they be switching it up? So are they paying them enough to cross the picket line? No, I don't think they're probably doing that. And I don't see Marvel being the type to do that. So, but yeah. Actually, I have another one about the writers' strike, but we'll get to that in a minute. In other news, trying to stay away from spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy, there is a new character introduced. I mentioned her yesterday during the thing, Phyla Vell. Now, Phyla Vell is an interesting character because, in a way, she's another Captain Marvel. And in a universe that already has Carol Danvers, who is currently Captain Marvel, and we met the original Marvel, and we get Tiona Paris's character of Monica Rambeau, who is also Captain Marvel. The fact that they've introduced Phyla Vell really kind of makes it interesting. Now, who is this character? What's going on? I doubt she will be Captain Marvel. She'll probably end up with another name. I think she also goes by Nova at some points, but no, she has another name. I don't remember what it is. But in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the High Evolutionary, played by Chukwudi Iwuji, creates this group of children as part of his genetic experiment, and one of them is Phyla, played by actress Kai Zen. And this is his attempts to make perfect species. I think this is all known going into the movie. Well, according to the High Evolutionary, she and her kind are supposedly engineered to require little sleep, exert barely any energy, and be perpetually happy. Now, fans of Marvel already, Martyr, that's it, thank you. Now, this character has already gone through some major changes because in the comics, she's the daughter of Captain Marvel, of the original Captain Marvel. Here, well, she can't really be that. Well, I guess she could have been, but they're not doing that. They're making her a genetic manipulation. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what they do with this character. But we do see, and I won't spoil anything from this, but it's a character that will likely be around. So we're not done seeing her. Now, will they do something like she ages fast or something like that because she's young? That I don't know. But when you see her, see the movie this weekend, keep an eye on her because she's going to be around. Speaking of the writer's strike, the question is, with all the DC stuff going on, will the writer's strike affect Superman Legacy? Well, according to the Wrap, director James Gunn turned in his first draft of the screenplay for Superman Legacy last week, just days before the Writers Guild of America went on strike. Now, the film is currently in the process of casting its characters and won't start filming until first quarter of 2024. This would mean that the movie will most likely go into production unhindered by the strike, depending on how long it lasts, of course. If they happen to last until the first quarter of next year, then we got issues. However, other DC Studios productions could be impacted. Recent announcements of stuff like Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow, The Authority, well, we really don't know what their current status is or what their release dates will be. Their production timelines could be delayed if the strike were to go on for any serious length of time. Plus, I believe, like Gunn, Matt Reeves' Batman movie the script is just about done as well. And this is kind of a weird case because this is the writer and the director are the same person on these films. So, all right, two other bits of news. This has to do with our main topic today, Star Wars. Star Wars Visions Season 2 drops today, and this also comes from Jeff Snyder. He's saying that there are rumors that the third season not only has already been greenlit, but they're working on it already. So that they've already gone out to other studios and are getting things rolling from that point of view. So, I hope if you like the first season and got season 2 to watch, looks like season 3 is a good possibility. Are the writers on strike just Hollywood writers, or are they comic writers too? Ed, these are basically they're on strike to the Writers Guild of America. There isn't necessarily a comic book guild or a comic book writers guild, but a good number of comic book writers are in the guild. So this doesn't affect them writing comics. It doesn't affect them writing novels or anything like that. But if they are in the Writers Guild of America, then they pretty much, can't work on anything Hollywood related script wise until this is done. So, but yeah, so it won't affect comic books. It won't affect novels. It'll just affect like if they're adapting those things or, those kind of. But yeah, it's Hollywood only. Well, Hollywood, the colloquial Hollywood, as in the entertainment industry or the movie and television industry. So, because a lot of stuff is just not even made in Hollywood anymore. But all right, and one more Star Wars related story, and I kind of thought this one was funny because they're saying that fans are wondering if the character of Jyn Erso would be making an appearance in season 2 of Andor, and that it seems like a stretch to me because we know that Andor season 2 is going to end right at the start of Rogue One. So, knowing that Jyn and Cassian meet in Rogue One, you can't have them interact in Andor. So, what's the connection there? So, unless she just happens to be hanging out with Saw Gerrera in something, and I think she was well away from Saw when this story would be taking place. It just doesn't make sense timeline wise for her to pop up. But actress Felicity Jones went ahead and kind of addressed the question. And she said, I'm afraid to say I won't be, but I still have hope for Jyn Erso at some point to make a comeback. But no, sadly, I won't be. She really did love playing the character, even though she considered it a challenge. She said, I did. I mean, it was a massive, massive challenge. I was doing a lot of martial arts in preparation for it. I mean, it's on such a huge scale. I was quite in awe of the whole thing, honestly. But like I said, she does hold out hope. And where she doesn't really want to retread the ground she's already done, she does say, I just keep saying that reincarnation is totally possible in the Star Wars universe. So I feel there's unfinished business for Jyn, for sure. I think it would be fascinating to see her getting older and wiser and fighting the dark forces in the universe, with which there are many, it seems. Did she not see Rogue One? Did she not see the Giants fireball that came and ate her and Cassian? So unless it's one of those somehow Palpatine returns, I don't think we're getting Jyn back. So, and I don't think anybody was cloning her. Aggressively relaxing. I don't think I've seen your name on here before, but I love it. Give CEO jobs to AI and use the savings to pay artists. I like it. I like that a lot. She didn't get off the cockadoodle planet. This is wrong. I know. Why would you ask her if she's coming back when you see the entire character's arc and it's not even an arc? Okay, I'm going to go on a quick 1 minute Rogue One rant. Everybody loves Rogue One. It's a great movie, and it is a fun, entertaining movie, but it's not a movie. It's a bridge. If you're a musician, it's the bridge from the chorus back to the verse. It's a connector. This movie doesn't exist without Star Wars and without the prequels. It is that connector piece. It's not really giving us anything new. The characters don't go through a story arc. Andor is a story arc. Rogue One is a single mission. It's like I said, it's a connector piece. You don't see growth in the characters. You don't see anything like that. It's just There. So it's entertaining as hell. It's well written, but it's not a standalone movie. So, all right, let's go ahead. We'll take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the state of the universe for Star Wars. Be right back.
Why was Princess Zelda sad after watching a bunch of YouTube videos? She couldn't find a link in the description. We'll stop if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy. Click subscribe and click the bell when you do. And thanks for supporting the EXP.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rock and Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales.
Programming on the EXP is made possible by viewers like you, or your local comic shop, or that Kickstarter you backed, or the publisher you like, or comic industry professionals who want to share a message with the world. Really, anyone who wants to advertise with us can. If you're interested in seeing a product you know and love, or are creating, or are publishing, or are involved with, advertised here on The Experience, and having your message shared with our viewers, please reach out by scanning the QR code below or visiting our website and using the contact form.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We're talking Star Wars today. We got a good lineup today on The Experience. Right after this is What's in the Box with, for coming from Space Cadets. And then, speaking of Space Cadets, the Space Cadets, CADETS, CADETTS, TTES, so they're two shows. Are talking about which superheroes or which characters from comics they would invite to their birthday party. And they're also putting together a playlist of music to watch Renfield to. They get a little cray-cray on that show, but it's fun. So check it out. No sketch up tonight. Mog and Mel are still at a convention, so they will be. I believe they will be back next week. All right, so let's dive into the state of Star Wars. It's kind of funny. I know a lot of younger people who grew up after the prequels or during the prequels, and then they went into getting the sequel series and Rogue One and Solo. And for them, it's this plethora of Star Wars, and there's all the books out there, and the both the legends and the canon books, and the games, and all that amazing stuff. But from about 1977 through the 90s, if you didn't buy the books, if you weren't someone who expanded out from, the normal media of TV and film, yeah, there you go. Back in my day, we had 3 movies and a terrible Christmas special. Yes, and then we had that stupid Ewok Rescuer Ewok thing on TV as well. Can't forget that. Battle for Endor. Yeah, that's it. So the plethora of Star Wars we have now is a bit overwhelming for longtime fans. I mean, like I said, if you're just someone who grew up and was deeply affected by these movies that told of galaxies far, far away, and now you turn on Disney Plus and it's got its own page with all these things. The Ewok movie with the oatmeal guy. Yep. Wilford Brimley. Yep. It's the right thing, or it's the right thing to do, and a good way to do it. But you got all this stuff to go by, and it's funny is that it's almost like Star Wars nostalgia is more powerful than anything they could do right now, because once something from Star Wars moves into the past, it gets better. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, I guess, is the key here. Because most everybody loves Star Wars. Sorry, A New Hope. Yeah. Most of my life, it was just Star Wars. It wasn't called A New Hope. It had the little thing, but nobody used it. It was just Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back, which seems to be universally beloved, and Return of the Jedi, which used to get really panned for Ewoks. Now, not so much. People still, talk bad about the Ewoks, but they're all now held in reverence. Oh, the original trilogy. Yeah. And then the prequels came, and oh my God, that's horrible. What are they? Mannequin Skywalker. That little kid can't act. Oh, the guy who they got to play him as older, he can't act either. Why? You know what? Oh, but we all love Ewan McGregor. All love Ewan McGregor. But the rest of them, I mean, it's like, Jar Jar Binks. Oh my God, Jar Jar Binks ruined the movies. And then Disney bought it, and they started making these new movies, and suddenly, those prequels were pretty good. Have you seen Clone Wars? Dave Filoni fixed everything. All the things that we didn't like about Clone Wars, Dave Filoni fixed it. Dave Filoni is our new god. It's kind of like Dave Filoni is like a first-round draft pick. When a quarterback is picked in the first round for a football team, he suddenly becomes the new Lord and Savior for the football team, even though he hasn't done anything. And most of the time, they trip on their cleats and fail. But right after that first pick, well, that's Dave Filoni right now. JD says, people can't seem to figure out that they don't want a new Star Wars movie. They just want to feel like they did when they were kids. Yeah, and I think that's the part that they forget, is that they were kids when it came out. Which is hilarious to me, because one of the things loved right now is Andor. And it's the least Star Wars thing ever made in the Star Wars franchise. I mean, all other Star Wars, holiday special, Andor. Because the holiday special had bits of actual Star Wars in it, and then Song and B. Arthur and Art Carney. And then Andor is nothing like it. Andor is this dramatic, intense series, and it's great. Loved it, but it's not really Star Wars. Jay said, blew my mind a few weeks ago to learn Star Wars shares a day with Jim. Jim came first, so yes, Star Wars shares a day with him. Oh, you mean Jim Beard? Yes, this is Jim Beard's birthday, my co-host on Popco the Writers. Happy birthday, Jim. So I'm just kind of fascinated by that, in that everything anticipated is going to be great. Everything in the past is going to be great. But whatever's out right now sucks. They're destroying Star Wars. It's the worst thing ever. Toxic fan base, activate. All right. So what is going on with Star Wars? There was a lot of changes made when Disney bought Lucasfilm. They decanonized so much of the external stuff, the novels, the comics, and stuff like that. Jam tomorrow, jam yesterday, but never jam today. So yeah, there's just all of a sudden stuff that people felt was canon was gone, just out the window. And it affected a lot of people, but now they're kind of fixing it. They keep going through. Filoni and Favreau are going out there and they're bringing all this stuff in. Some of it from the legends, some of it from the cartoon series. And I mean, Dave Filoni was the driving force for Clone Wars and for Rebels. And so much of that is being brought into this, let's see, I think it's the New Republic era. Yeah, did you guys see that big banner they had up at Star Wars Celebration that broke down the eras into 9 different eras? You got the Dawn of the Jedi, the Old Republic, the High Republic, the Fall of the Jedi, the Reign of the Empire, the Age of Rebellion, the New Republic, Rise of the First Order, and then the New Jedi Order, with the Dawn of the Jedi and the New Jedi Order being new areas that are going to be played in. They just we're going to make those up now. So yeah, we're in the New Republic era. And it's tough because we know, because of the last few movies, the sequel trilogies, that the New Republic fails. Just horribly. So what do we got going on? We got multiple projects in the works but we just had a few wrap up. We got a few that, if you look at just what's happened since Disney Plus came into existence. Okay, so you've got the original trilogy, you've got the prequel trilogy, then you've got the sequel trilogy that Disney did, which I think they're about to try to save. And by saving's not a good term for it, but when the prequel trilogy came out, it had things that bothered people, had flaws, had plot holes. And Dave Filoni has used Clone Wars and Rebels to kind of fill those in. He's like the drywall guy that shows up after you had a party and goes, okay, there's a hole, got that there, there's one there, okay. And so Filoni's been doing that, and now they're using the New Republic to try to set up some of the fixes for the rise of the New Order, that era of movies. Because, I mean, they literally did the line, somehow Palpatine returned. There is no Star Wars fan out there that goes, oh, okay, he came back somehow. This is science fiction. Science fiction is based on people who believe in the facts. This isn't high fantasy. This is science fiction. So when you say the warp drive, well, how do you do warp drive? So dilithium crystals. Oh, okay. We want explanation. It doesn't have to be legit. It doesn't have to be real. It just has to be presented as real. I've heard Star Wars described as galactic fantasy. There is a lot to be said about that. It would be considered high fantasy. In a lot of ways, it does fit the definition of high fantasy. By the way, if you don't know the difference between what's considered a high fantasy and they call it low fantasy, but the difference is they call things high fantasy if it takes place outside of Earth, whether it's a different version of Earth or whatever, and stuff like fantasy creatures and magic are normal on this planet, on this world. That's considered high fantasy, where the world is magical and have these creatures and stuff like that. Low fantasy, and they really need a better term for that, is more like the Dresden Files or, Star Trek, where it's all grounded in reality. It takes place on Earth. And it's just, if somebody starts using magic, then it's like, oh my God, how are you doing magic? Where that magic's not real. Harry Potter is low fantasy. It's like down low fantasy because it's all kept secret. That's on a different channel that we don't talk about on here. Bow, chicka, bow, bow. So I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I think since they went on Disney Plus and started doing these TV shows, they've brought back a lot of excitement for the fans, because not only have they been delving into areas that we haven't played with in a while or at all, but in doing so, they're also reconnecting a lot of the legends, a lot of stuff. Like right now, Thrawn is huge. Everybody's talking about Thrawn. Thrawn was a big part of Legends. He then became a big part of Rebels, and now he's going to be a big part of the New Republic era. That's going to get fans excited. Ahsoka is a character that nobody knew. She shows up in Clone Wars and then Rebels, and now she's huge. She's getting her own series, but she's getting her own series with the team from the Rebels. And again, that's playing to the existing fan base without having to risk a major motion picture. And that's the problem, is that it's what my biggest complaint about the sequel trilogies. I have two. One is I think Kylo Ren is the worst villain ever created. He's a mopey goth kid. But number two is that they took away the happy ending we earned in Return of the Jedi. We had the story arc of Han, Luke, Leia from beginning to end. We got their story, and they went off to live happily ever after. And then they decided to do a sequel series. They didn't need to bring Han, Luke, and Leia back, or Lando, or any of those characters. Chewbacca, sure, he lives long enough. They could have stayed away from them altogether. But instead, not only do they bring them back, but they bring them back in a way to show they didn't get a happy ending. Luke's Jedi, uh, you know, Jedi order is destroyed. Han and Leia end up breaking up. Han loses the Falcon. I mean, there's just one bad thing after another, and then they kill Han, and then Luke, and just they could have moved it slightly further in the future and just referenced the characters or focused on their children. You know, in the comics, Luke has kids, or in the comics and the novels and stuff, Luke has kids, Han and Leia have kids. They could have done that. They went a completely different direction. And I think that's a lot of what upset fans. Now they're kind of rolling it back and they're trying to bring in as much of what the fans grew up on, because we had Star Wars and Return of the Jedi and Empire. And then we didn't have movies for 20 years or 10 or 20 years, you know, depending on. And when we finally got them, we've had all these Legends books and stuff that built up the universe that we were all told it was canon. So when they took those away, they didn't really connect with the audience as much. They got the newer people, but I know Harrison wanted the guy to die. But the fact is that he, you know, if he had said no, or if they had said, no, we're not killing Han, and he didn't come back, they really could have just done the story. I think Disney was afraid to do Star Wars without their main characters. That's why we see so much of Skywalker showing up everywhere. Did we need Luke Skywalker in the Mandalorian series? No. It was an amazing moment. We didn't need it. You know? So what we got coming up is some good stuff. And I'm hoping that they're going to keep in mind the stuff they've been doing. Why Mandalorian season 1 and 2 were great and season 3 was weaker? Studio interference. You know, it was the studio not letting the story naturally grow. You know, Grogu wasn't supposed to be back for season 3. It would have been the end of season 3 when he came back. We would have had a completely different story arc. But the studio went, no, we can't have a Mandalorian season without Grogu. Bring him back. So studio interference again. When the studio gets involved and interferes, Star Wars takes a hit. When the people who love Star Wars are the ones working on it, that's when it works. So I am hoping for us. I have hope for Ahsoka. I have hope for all of these projects. I mean, we get Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew in 2023. We get another Tales of the Jedi. We're getting the Acolyte in 2024. We're getting the Bad Batch in 2024. I think the Tales of the Jedi is also 2024. And we're getting the second season of Andor. That all sounds great. We got the movies lined up. We got the Dawn of the Jedi movie with James Mangold. We got the Mandalorian crossover movie, or the New Republic movie. And then we get Rey and the New Jedi Order movie. All that sounds great. Taika Waititi's doing a movie. Little leery after Love and Thunder, but still, I'll be looking to see it. We've still got talk of a Lando series. There's a lot of great stuff coming up in Star Wars, but I think it'll do fine if A, the studio stays out of it and let the creators create, and B, if the fans would tone down the vitriol. You guys all love this stuff, but you hate it when you first see it. And a lot of it is because it's not doing what you think it should do. And I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying that's, I think, a lot of where the complaints come from. You know, oh, this character should have showed up. That character should have showed up. Oh, they handled this character wrong. No. People have been so attached to Star Wars for so long, they feel a certain amount of ownership. And in doing so, if they don't do what the fan thinks they should do, then the fan is upset. Later on, when they look back, they seem to like it better. So, all right, that's my state of the Star Wars. We'll come back with some key collectibles from the original run. We'll be right back.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons, the thumbs up and all those things, and share with your friends. Let's get some more people in here, shall we? All right, let's get through. We got some Star Wars books. These are key Star Wars issues from the original run that, started in 1977, ran through 1986. This is Star Wars #1. This is the first appearance of Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia. This was interesting because they actually adapted the comic or the movie in the comics and then just continued on from there. High end on this is $400, medians $120, low ends $40. Second issue, also from 1977. Now this was the first appearance of Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, plus the walrus guy over there. $200 on the high end, medians $80, low ends $20. Okay, from there we go to Star Wars #7 from 1978. This is interesting because this is the first original Star Wars comic story. So they took the first 6 issues to adapt the movie, and then here we get an actual story with Han Solo and Chewbacca. High end on this is about $12. Low ends $1, medians about $3. Now, this one's interesting because you see the little rabbit guy over there? He's a fan favorite. That's Jackson. This was Jackson's first appearance from Star Wars #8 in 1978. High end on this is $40, medians $12, low end is $4. After that, when Empire Strikes Back came out, they just adapted it in the ongoing series. So 1980, Star Wars #39. This was the first of 6 parts they did of Empire Strikes Back adaptation. High end on this is $30, medians $9, low ends about $3. Then we have Star Wars #42, which is still part of the Empire Strikes Back adaptation. This counts as the first appearance of Boba Fett, and you can see how popular Boba Fett is. Look at the price jump. $280 for the high end on this, $60 for median, $25 for low. This Star Wars #68, this is considered one of the first real focused on Boba Fett stories. This was the first time Mandalorians were mentioned. It's also the first full appearance of Dengar, the bounty hunter with all the bandages. High end on this is $200, median is $80, low end is $20. Now, before we go too far into this one, you'll notice that we're in 1983. This is when Return of the Jedi came out. They did something different in Return of the Jedi. They made that a Marvel magazine. They adapted it there. They did not adapt Return of the Jedi in the regular run. So they did the first two movies, not the third. Star Wars 71, this was the first full appearance of Bossk, one of my personal favorite characters from Star Wars. High end 65, median's 18, low end is $5. All right, this has an absolutely awesome cover, but this is Star Wars number 81 from 1984, and the reason this one's high up there is because this is where they tell you how Boba Fett escapes from the Sarlacc pit. Nobody knew about that. That was something they did, here. We didn't get that in movies until Book of Boba Fett, or a live action of Book of Boba Fett. High end here is $85, median's $25, low end is $8. Then we get Star Wars number 107 from 1986. Not sure what's going on with this cover. It's not as good as some of the others and why there's bunny rabbits on it. But this is the final issue of the first series. So it ran 107 issues. The high end on this one's $65, median's $15, low end is $5. So, and was that not a 1980s dress that Princess Leia was wearing? I mean, come on. All right, so I don't know what you guys think about the current state of Star Wars. The Mandalorian really got me back into it. Jibs. I was a big Star Wars kid growing up. I had all the figures, all the toys. And then I got into my 20s or so and ended up selling off the stuff. Sold it to build up my Daredevil comic collection. So, by the time the 90s rolled around and we started getting the reissues, and then, later on when we got the prequel series, I enjoyed them, but they didn't really get me back into Star Wars. It didn't really get me that excitement. And the more recent stuff, again, I was turned off by the sequel series because of how they treated the original characters. Rogue One, I thought was entertaining, but again, it didn't feel very Star Wars-y to me, because I think that the creator has his own way of doing things, just like he does with Andor. It's enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but it feels like it's a little outside of Star Wars. And Solo, I actually liked Solo. Solo was probably my favorite movie to come out in a while. But what got me excited again about Star Wars is The Mandalorian, because that felt like Star Wars to me again. What Favreau and Filoni did, it's the Western in space again. It's the old Akira Kurosawa films. That's what really got me going. I really enjoyed that. And I liked season 3. I didn't love it as much as I loved the first two seasons, but I liked it well enough. Book of Boba Fett had flaws, and I actually liked Obi-Wan a lot too. But so I'm curious to see how they're going to continue this forward, because it really is like walking on eggshells with fans. Do we break this sacrilege, or do we? Everybody wants these things, but they want it in a certain way. Oh, we want Boba Fett back. Well, the Boba Fett we get back was in a Sarlacc pit, lived with the Tuskens, and finally worked his way back. So he's different than the guy who had 2 minutes of screen time that we really know nothing about other than what was in Legends. The kid playing Leia was great in Obi-Wan. She was really good. Normally I find stories that center around children to be kind of annoying, but they did a really good job with that one. And Ewan McGregor, does such a great job as that character that I would absolutely love to see more of Obi-Wan Kenobi. But we're kind of stuck on the timeline thing, you know? So that's the one flaw George Lucas did by jumping around, is you're not telling a linear story, you can't add to it unless there's little nooks and crannies where you can fit things in. So but they're doing their best with that. All right. Well, that's my thoughts on Star Wars. I'm gonna watch the Visions this weekend, so we can talk about it next week. I didn't love Visions. I didn't hate Visions. It was kind of the first season. A couple of them were good, and a couple of them were like, "Where's my fast forward button?" You know. But overall, I do like what they're doing. I do like the things they're trying. So. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Jeff, and everybody else who popped in on the show. Again, please share it. You know, grab the link, send it to friends who are Star Wars fans or, like comics, stuff like that. I would appreciate it. Let's see if we can get some new viewers. And you all have a great weekend. Stick around for what's in the box coming up next.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.